Welcome to Kryptic Soulz, the podcast about all things horror. Sit back, relax, and get ready to delve into the dark abyss of things that go bump in the night. And now, here are your hosts, Jeff Scott, Meg Scott, and Dave Bates.
Hi, and welcome to Kryptic Soulz Horror Podcast, Episode 2. I'm Dave.
I'm Meg.
I'm Jeff.
And tonight we are going to be talking about slasher movies. And,
Actually, that's pretty good.
That was pretty good.
you should take some few beers to get that.
Wow.
So, yeah, I know for me personally, I've always been a huge fan of the big 80s craze of slasher movies. So, when the idea for this came up, I was like, sure, let's go with it.
So much so, I went out and I actually bought a book about teenage slasher films, which you have right over there, Dave. So we got a whole plethora of information we
have the Teenage Slasher Movie Book.
Yeah, we can regurgitate that.
Which is a nice
nod, but you know what? It doesn't even mention the one movie that you mentioned when you came over.
From way back.
Yeah.
Yeah, I started looking into, when we decided we were going to go with this, I started looking into, my whole life I've always heard about, like, Halloween. That was, the original slasher movie. And then as time went on and I looked more into it, I started hearing more and more about Black Christmas, the 1974 one. And how that was the original, I guess, modern day slasher. And so yeah, the other night when we decided that we were going to discuss this, I started looking into, like, okay, what's going to be the definitive answer with that? And actually, I saw a thing that goes back to 1926, a silent movie called The Bat, which I don't think was actually credited as, I guess not even, it was more of a mystery than a horror. But, I mean, if you take the general synopsis of it, where a bunch of people go to an old house and somebody in a mask, well, to be fair, in a costume, I'll give you two guesses as to what that costume was, but starts picking these guests off one by one.
Exactly.
And they have to decide who it is. And
let me guess, a giant iguana.
So yes, when I was trying to do more research on the movie, I saw that there was a documentary. I'm drawing a blank on the name, but Bob Kane actually said that was part of the inspiration for Batman. So I guess that was kind of cool.
That is pretty cool.
Well, it's a good thing it didn't go with the going around to kill people, because that would have been a little odd.
Yes, because that's a big no-no.
Yeah, unless that's what DC would have went with, like the Batman's actually killing everybody, so it's like their version of the Punisher.
So where everyone's mocking the whole DC universe now.
Yeah, exactly.
A lot of people seem to be doing that. Who knows? Maybe that's going to be the big twist.
Well, thanks
their
to
endgame movie is going to be that Batman's just been massacring people behind the scenes. That would be awesome.
Yeah, that'd be great.
That would be really good.
But yeah, I thought that was really cool. I actually found it on YouTube, the movie, and I started watching it, and I think I saw something shiny, so I didn't actually get to finish it. But like in the first 15 minutes and all, it's definitely something I'd like to check out more of, especially if it's being given any credit for inspiring what was to come.
Yeah, but
60 years later.
Yeah, but that brings up the question too. It's not just a slasher film, but the teen slasher genre. Like Halloween kind of put that into the forefront when it's just a bunch of teenagers being killed and everything by this mass killer. But at the same time, you mentioned Black Christmas, but that had the same thing, teenagers being knocked off by some killer too. So.
Yeah, and apparently that was definitely one of the earlier movies of, well, I guess that's why so many people credit that one.
Yeah, and what I'm curious about is the budget on there, because a lot of the slasher films are so low budget that, when you think about it, it didn't really make a lot of money, but it did.
In the long run,
when
yes.
you look at it, they can make it for $20,000 back then. Compared today, it would be $100,000 or something, and then they could bring in maybe $1 million, and that's a big hit. Even though when you look at it, it's not that many when you think about it, but because of how much they put into it and what they got out of it, that really was what catapulted it. And then, of course, after that, all the carbon copies started to come out.
Yeah, I mean, I think that was partly why Halloween, inspired the big 80s boom because, it was like a $300,000 budget and it ended up making like $70 million.
Yeah.
So, they just saw like, oh, we can make it this cheap, make this much of a profit. Yeah, just mass produce it, which...
And not only that, but also make William Shatner a household item in the long run when you think about it, since all they did is bleach his mask and tweezed his hair. It's like, that's all. Just a William Shatner mask. Like, here you go. And now it's the I wonder if he gets royalties for that. Because when you really look at it, when you take a look, and I swear to God, you'll see James D. Kirk. I'll be like, dude, that looks so much like him when I really look at it. Well, they did just make the eye holes bigger. The mouth is the same, and I'm thinking, wow.
I mean, he did Fanboys, so I guess he's not making that much money off the mask.
Yeah, that is true. Although he did Christmas Horror Story. That was pretty good.
I still have to watch that.
Yeah, that's a good one. But it's not a slasher film. Well, actually...
I'm
one of the stories
Wait a
is,
minute.
but I'm not going to give it away.
Well, you know what? I'm looking up, horror. They actually, on Google, they list the movies. They had a list, and they said slashers, and then they said murder movies. And I was like, murder movies? Let me go on there.
I mean, people are murdered in them, so...
Exactly.
Yeah.
So,
Well,
exactly.
actually, the slasher is supposed to be unconscious, like just kill, whereas a murder, it's premeditated, so...
Oh, okay.
So there is the whole revenge plot. So technically, the bat, when you really get down to the nitty gritty, yeah, he's killing people, but he's planning it out. It's not like he's just randomly walking in. I'm like, hey, what are these guys doing in my house? Die, 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 die.
Yeah.
Halloween. Hey, there's someone in my. Well, yeah, there's somebody in my house. Get out. Die, 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 die. And then, of course, the big ones, Friday the 13th came out after that, and then Nightmare on Elm Street, and then just the whole teen. That's what's funny about it, is that even in those films, you had the 80s style teen drama, but with horror mixed into it.
Yeah.
Not a lot of comedy, really, because you have teenagers or older adults acting like teenagers. Yeah, there's no way that Brad is not 35 years old. Give me a break.
Yeah.
He's not 18.
Well, here it is. The Lodger, a story of the London fog. A landlady suspects her new lodger is the madman killing women in London. So I guess that's more a murder mystery then, I guess.
Yeah, more serial killer when you think about it. It's almost
Yeah.
like Jack the Ripper. It's like...
Well, that's where I was getting at, is because I think she believes he's like the Jack the Ripper.
Well, who knows?
Yeah.
Truthfully, I've heard of the Lodger, but I really never would classify that as a slasher. I'm thinking of just the killer going around for no reason. It's like
Killing
sees
people.
sees the girl sitting there, is like, whoosh, done. The guy, whoosh, done.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it. And after the 80s and everything, all the knockoffs that came out, I don't know if you ever saw the movie Maniac, that was not bad.
Actually, and I heard the remake was actually really good too.
Yeah, I've never seen the remake. I was a little leery about it, but
I've heard some people say that they actually like it more than the original, and they love the original.
yeah.
So
Yeah.
I got to get both of those on and probably watch them back to back. And
Yeah, and then of course they had started to add supernatural elements into those slasher films, and not just straight. You
Well,
had,
the Friday the 13th.
yeah, well that's later on when he actually comes back from the dead.
Yeah, true.
But before that he just can't be killed. So the guy, I mean, he's already messed up already, and now he's got all these cuts and bruises. It's like, oh wow, okay. And then of course you got the Freddy Kruegers, but also one maniac cop. I don't know if you remember that. Just the.
Again, it was new when I saw it, but yeah, I remember that being
Yeah, the police officer used voodoo to come back, and he's going around killing people that came after him, and I'm like, okay. I mean, they're low budget too, and you could tell. You could tell. But even a lot of the low budget stuff is still good.
Yeah, it was never about high quality. It was just a matter of okay, a couple $100,000, you could make a full movie where lots of people die.
Exactly. Take a bunch of kids, camp, apartment building. Okay, let's throw them here. Okay, let's put them on a ship. There you go. Yeah, put them on there, and we'll have someone going around killing them for no reason. Really? Well, why? I'm like, who cares? It's called money. We want to make it. Let's make the death as elaborate as possible.
Yeah.
See, that's all that people go to watch those movies, is just because the deaths are so bad.
Yeah,
Well, yeah.
And it was, the more I was looking into things and like actually thinking about it, I didn't realize like how much, all right, so you had Halloween, then Friday the 13th came sort of from that. And then it just exploded.
Yeah.
And I didn't realize as I'm looking through list of movies like how quickly it already kind of like so many like it was just so mass produced that it was like by 83 84 it was already like okay, all right, we've seen
flooded.
this. Like I didn't think how much like Friday 4 and Nightmare on Elm Street kind of gave a second life to the 80s.
Yeah, it's like they were the definitive 80s.
They cornered the market when it came to stuff like that.
Like I noticed, like there was already by 83, early 84, there was already a lot of fatigue from all the slasher stuff, and then just.
Exactly.
No, you're correct.
That Friday 4, it was. It just gave like a satisfying ending to the whole thing. Like they could have just stopped it. Not that it's really that groundbreaking in the news or anything, but then also like with Nightmare on Elm Street, just that they brought in, the dream angle of it all. That it was actually something different.
Yeah. The plot lines were different, and those plot lines were so different that it just sparked my interest. Like with the Nightmare on Elm Street, I wanted to see it to be scared. Slasher films don't scare me. I wound up laughing, but at the same time, I was able to appreciate the deaths, and slasher films really give you an appreciation for special effects makeup.
Yeah. And the funny thing about Nightmare is that it almost did not get made. It's like when he was shopping it around, like at first it went to Paramount, and then they said, nah, we're going to pass, because at the time they were making Dreamscape with Dennis Quaid.
I remember hearing about that.
And it's just so similar, and they're like, nah, it's two dreams, nah, it's about two the same, But then New Line just happened to be formed with a couple of these low-budget romances or something, comedies, whatever. And they're like, let's take a chance, and there you go. So that's why New Line's called The House That Freddy Built.
Yeah.
He's the one that put him on the screen, so...
Yeah, Bob Shea was just like, all right, well...
Yeah.
it's a movie. Like, we should do this.
Yeah, and that pretty much dominated the 80s, and then we get into the 90s, and that's actually where Halloween really bloomed, because after 3, people wanted Michael Myers back, so they started doing 4 or 5, and then 6, unfortunately. Yeah, we try not to talk about that, but then there was that decline. Like, you didn't see a lot of stuff between the late 80s and early 90s. It seemed to start either plateauing or start going down.
Well, it seemed like, too, that, again, like, Nightmare is what got me full-blown into it. And, I mean, at the time, it was a different take on all that. But then the more I thought about it, it was like, bringing in the dream element, like, it really raised the bar as far as creativity of kills. Like, if you're dreaming it, like, anything could happen. And I think, in a sense... like right out of the gate, that kind of killed it, because then the later half of the 80s, it became into the more sensational murders, like just what little logic was going on in these movies, like it just went out the window. Like, let's just make the most spectacular killing, and I think that's why, it led into, all right, let's throw this bad guy into space, let's, and they just, in some cases almost became like mockeries of themselves.
Exactly. Right. And they pushed the envelope too, like how far could they go with some of these killings, like how much can they show on screen, because there's still the regulations at the time, so there's only so much you could show, so they kept pushing and pushing and pushing. And then eventually they started to say, we're done, we're going to end these series, like Nightmare decided to have their final episode, Friday decided to have their final episode, and
their second final.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And and the weird thing is, like, even the low budget ones, like Leprechaun tried to end, and they all end in space except for Freddy's Nightmare, or no,
Freddy's Dead.
Yeah, Freddy's Dead.
Don't you dare blaspheme Freddy's Nightmares.
No, the series was fine. Yeah, the series was great, but no, it was
splendidly awful.
That Yeah, that movie was just like, hey, what? Dream Demons? What? Huh? What the hell? They just wanted to do 3D. That's all they wanted to do. And, they tried to bring it back and it failed. And the funny thing is, Wes Craven even tried to bring back the slasher film by doing New Nightmare.
Yeah, which I thought was a nice little twist. It was definitely one of the better Freddy movies at that point. Although I guess if you're thinking straight from Freddy's Dead, then anything was going to look awesome.
Yeah, after that. And it's just, he tried to bring it back, but it really didn't pick up. I mean, even a lot of the low-budget movies that went direct to video, that's pretty much almost what I think killed the slasher films. Because it's like, let's go direct to video and just put whatever we want out there, and it's just a lot of bad. Mm-hmm. It's like...
Well, it was so surrealism, and like Dave was saying, it's just like, let's see how big of a kill we can get, or glorified kill.
Exactly, but even then, like, whatever they had in their budget just didn't help at all.
Right.
Like, yeah, a lot of those movies, it seemed like, they dumped the entire budget for the effects of, like, the kill.
Yeah.
So it's like all these off-camera or just... so-so kills and all, but they dumped all the money into that one thing that everyone's going to talk about. Like, everybody wanted their shower scene.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just that one scene, that one kill that everybody talked about.
Yeah, and I love the movies that tried to emphasize, like, our shower scene makes Psycho look even worse. And this, I'm like, seriously? Like, I remember one movie, House 4. I don't know if you ever saw that.
I don't think I ever made it past horror show.
Oh. I tried to rewatch that.
It was technically 3, right?
Yeah, because over in Europe it came out as House 3, so that's why House 4, they skipped that, because over here they called it the horror show. I'm like, yeah, anyways. But yeah, so William Cat came back for that one, and they had the big thing on the buy. I remember working at Blockbuster, I see it, and I'm like, oh, wow, House 4? Oh, the shower scene that puts Psycho to shame. I'm like, what? And it's just, I'm like, it's supposed to be like, the blood in the shower and all that, and she's showering, and I'm like, oh my god, really? It was so cheesy. I mean, one of the monsters is the pizza face in the pizza.
Right.
It's like, it's your pizza, man. It was like,
yeah, but Freddy already did that. So.
Yeah, I know, but this was just more comical.
Freddy did it.
But that's the funny thing, is like they tried to have subtle humor in it, but then it wasn't until 96, I believe. 96, Wes Craven's Scream came out. And then that actually brought the slasher genre back right up front again. Yeah. In the spotlight. But it added that teen comedy element to it. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was great. I liked it. I thought it was a great idea. Wes Craven pulled it off again. And then just like in the 80s, everyone had to jump on the bandwagon.
I know what you did last summer. Urban Legend.
Yeah.
Like all the, I guess, meta.
Yeah.
The meta age of slashers.
Yeah. I always thought of it as in the 90s where they were redoing all the campfire stories as slashers. That's how I looked at it. Because, like, I knew what you did last summer was the Hook Man, stuff like that. And
the Candyman.
The Candyman, all the urban legends stuff, campfire stories, creepypasta, and...
It's almost midnight.
Yeah, and they basically, and then they turned them into...
No, it's not. You forgot to set your watch, you idiot. Okay.
Yes.
What time zone are we in?
But what made them palatable was the fact that they turned them into comedy horror, like, in a sense.
Yeah, emphasize the comedy more. I mean, look at the Chuckies that came out, although not considered real slasher films, but still.
Right.
It's like the humor just took over and just, it almost overshadowed.
Yeah.
Yeah, again, like, I as much as I always have a soft spot for Freddy, like, it does seem like, in a sense, he revived it and killed it at the same time. Because, I mean, I can't think of any off the top of my head, but I feel like he was the first killer in one of these movies with personality.
Yeah.
Oh, Freddy?
Like, any before that, aside of Michael and Jason, but, like,
still
all
even
these,
Jason and Michael.
all these, like, serial killer and,
Yeah, he talked. That's the difference. I mean, there's only so much you can do with a dude with, knives on his fingers.
Yeah.
So 4 of them. So it's like, all right, how much more can you use?
Well,
New Nightmare, he had the 5th.
It's just how he interacted with his victims, too. I mean, for example, like I think what Dave is saying, and it's so true, even with Jason, even with Michael, when they interacted with their victims, there was silence. They just slashed them, you know.
Their personality was physical, where Freddy was such a character. So again, like when you got into Chucky, and then it all became about the one-liners. Even from what I remember, the first 2 or 3 Child's Plays, I mean, there was still a level of them being brutal, but there were still one-liners.
Yes.
And you had to get the bad puns in and all that.
Yes.
Then you had the leprechauns. Oh god. I mean,
I'm gonna have to run through all those again because
I mean, they're
I
not
wanna
slasher
watch them.
films. They're just like, we're talking about characters. Like, that definitely is a character, all the
Right.
there were things, but mostly just the slasher genre. I don't know if Saw would be considered a slasher movie. It's more of, I don't want to say torture horror, but more of what would you like, survival horror? I guess that would be considered. Not really a slasher because he's not making them do it in that sense.
Yeah, he gives them a choice: either do it or die.
Well,
Right.
true, but one way could kill you even worse than if you don't. I guess just the whole, you have someone killing people and there's only so much you can really tell with that type of a character.
Yeah.
I mean, like I hear they're trying to redo Scream again, which they're just calling it Scream, and it's kind of a reboot continuation, I guess, because they're bringing back the originals. I mean, they even tried to do it on
Sydney's
television.
back, right?
Yeah, I mean, they even tried to go television route with, Scream on, what is it, MTV, I think it was.
Yeah.
Scream Queens, they had the same thing. You got the slasher, but they tried to do the different format.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, if you put it on a network television like that has restrictions, you don't get the same effect out of it, in my opinion. Like, they tried to do that with a couple of other shows. It just seemed like the way of the VHS movie. It's good, but it's not the same.
Yeah.
You don't get that, I want to say cerebral feeling from it when you really get invested in, like, all right, where's the guy going to pop up? Who's going to die next?
Mm-hmm.
And plus, back then, some of the victims were actually people you didn't want to die. Like, you actually got to like the victim.
Yeah, once in a while they'd throw you one that you actually,
Exactly.
what you said.
Yeah. It's
Exactly.
like, wow, I hope he gets killed. Oh, good, he did. Good, because he was a jerk. Can't stand that.
Mm-hmm.
Which will come up later, because that's a nice segue, but we'll discuss that later.
Yeah.
The Blumhouse movies that we were talking about earlier. The
Happy Death Day.
Happy Death Day, and then Freaky. Love it. Love them. They were funny. They were great slashers, entertaining, but that's about it. There was not much to the plot, which there could have been more to.
Well, there's slasher remakes from comedies. That's the thing. Like, you have, Groundhog Day, just with a dude running around killing someone over and over again.
Yeah.
And then
But that baby face.
that's just, I'm like, really? That's the best they can come up with?
It did get pretty unnerving pretty quickly.
It's like, it's like he went through the toy aisle. It's like, I'll just take this one. I don't care. I'm like, wow. At least Freaky, they had a decent mask in the beginning where they tried to make a Friday the 13th style.
Jason-esque.
Yeah.
I mean, and that's actually, a good segue when we're talking about the fall of slasher films, and now this one comes out, and Scream might be coming back.
It was a good idea for them to release this before Scream, to be honest with you.
Actually, yeah. I mean, it was fun. I was hesitant going into it. Like, I watched it, and we sat down and watched it, and I'm like, well, I don't know if I want to. It's like, it's like a Freaky Friday, but someone going around, Vince Vaughn going around killing people. I'm like, well, I don't know. And then you said you saw it, Dave, and
I saw it a few weeks ago. And
and you kept saying, did you see it? Oh, this is really good. I'm like, okay, well, because you said that and we're going to talk about it, I definitely should watch it. So it kind of forced me into it, but I'm glad I did, because I really enjoyed it. I thought it was funny, and even the very beginning, it got you in there. There was no funny jokes. It almost reminded me of like a Friday the 13th earlier movie.
Yeah.
And then the effects that they put into it and the death scenes. I was like, that wine bottle, just like, wow. Okay.
Yeah, that was amazing.
I was hooked from there. I'm like, if they're gonna do it that much, I'm like, And if you haven't seen it, I don't want to give it away because the death scenes are the best.
Yeah, it was surprisingly brutal for, you know, something that, you know.
Yeah. But it comes back to what I said earlier, where the people that die in horror movies are usually the ones you don't want to die. But the ones that have died in this movie...
Shop teacher.
I was so happy.
Oh, the shop teacher.
Like,
that's what I was about ready to say. I was like, can I just at least give away that death? That was amazing.
Wait, he died? I was just talking about how he was...
yeah, Alan Rook, Mr. Cameron himself.
Because normally they cut in the middle of a scene like that. And here they kept the camera on the whole time.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember I'm sitting
impressed.
there, and I'm like, okay, he gets onto the saw tape, and I'm like, I doubt they're probably going to cut away and you're going to see the blood splatter on him. I'm like, oh my God, this is great.
They went there.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, my favorite, and I'm going to give this away because I think this is great, and this is what every woman should do. They should carry a chainsaw with them every time.
Oh, yeah.
When the three guys decide to go after the teenage girl who is actually the serial killer. And, you know, teenage high school boys decide to get a little drunk, and you know where this is going. And then they just get their self-handed neck broken. And then the main guy, like, here comes the chainsaw, and you think, oh, here comes the head. No. She goes right for the... And I was like, yes. That just did it for me right there. I'm like, I'm satisfied. Yeah, so that's what hooked me. I was like, all right, the rest of this, I don't care what happens next. And it actually just got better, in my opinion.
Yeah, one thing I would have liked to have seen a little more. I mean, you can't get around the fact the movie was specifically, all right, let's see Vince Vaughn play a teenage girl.
Yeah.
Right.
Which, that alone had me hooked.
Yeah.
Well, that night, and early on, I did hear a few people say, like, oh, that's actually one of his better movies lately. I'm like, really? But...
Well, outside of Psycho, yes.
I mean, you know, and I ain't even touching that. But yeah, it's nitpicking, and yeah, you could tear the movie apart with the plot holes and all. But part of me kind of almost wanted me to see like he was just doing his typical, almost Valley Girl, like, you know, your stereotypical high school girl in a movie.
Yes.
Which it would have been nice to see him actually try to portray Millie's actual personality.
Yeah, I think he comes relatively close to it because I think she tried to keep herself off-put in and all that. So there's not... Because in the beginning she's kind of shy to herself and all that. So she's not really out there. She's like... But then this happens, and of course you could see, like... I know this is going to sound weird... The actress herself not doing it, but Vince Vaughn doing it, where she actually gets like confidence in herself. I mean, she confronts that bully dude and just pings up against the wall. I thought, good.
Are you peeing yourself?
Exactly.
I love that.
Yes, ew, and just like.
But at that moment when he was like, ew, it was kind of like what Dave was saying, where he was embodying the
girl.
Valley girl, you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, just a stereotypical movie high school girl, like, oh, you guys, and
Yeah.
But that left room for him to do that, you know, like he built the character, and then when it went back to her, then now at the end she has this confidence, so it's almost like a reversal, you know, like she got to portray the killer and develop him within her, and he does the girl instead of vice versa, where they establish, okay, here's her personality, but then she has a little bit of confidence. Oh, now this happens, and it's like, no, it's just a complete 180, and it's almost weird how, you know, good they both were, because it's like I was convinced he was her, and then vice versa, and then when they switch back, it's like, okay, I know theoretically that's what happened, but I'm like, okay. You know, they're just certain mannerisms, I guess.
yeah, almost you got to learn more about Vaughn's character through her portrayal of
Exactly. It was definitely better than that. What the heck was his name? SNL guy, Benchwarmers, Schneider.
Oh, Rob Schneider.
Rob Schneider. His reversal. I can't remember the name of it. Where he switches with
The Animal.
Oh no!
No. He switches with a teenage like girl, and it's like,
Yeah. Yeah.
and all that.
I keep wanting to say white chicks, even though I know that's not it.
No.
I forget what it was.
I know which one you're
know.
talking about,
Yeah,
though.
maybe it's a good thing I don't remember.
The hot chick?
Yes, that's it. Yeah, it's like it's better than that because I thought the slasher motif in the background was perfect for that because it's like it's just some random jackass and then switches with this girl and it's like what? It's like I just didn't like that movie, but this one I actually liked. This body swap was actually really cool.
After Deuce Bigelow, I tapped out with him in general. So
Yeah.
Benchwarmers was great because he
Same thing, yeah.
actually played a normal guy and actually was not like the nerd. That's the only one I really like of his, really.
I'm gonna have to check that out.
Yeah, it had the dude that played Napoleon Dynamite. I can't remember his name, but and of course David Spade. He's in everything that they do.
yeah.
But yeah, no, Vince Vaughn, I totally agree with both of you on that. On the fact that he could have embodied Millie's personality a little bit more. I'm really impressed, Dave, with your insight with that, because a lot of people just don't really pick up on those things. They actually, what Vince Vaughn did was putting the Valley Girl aspect into it and thinking, oh, if I just speak in a high-pitched voice, wave my hands around, and just act like, you know, all cutesy.
But that's the best part.
How you do it.
That's the best part. He didn't play it dumb either. He actually played like it was a smart girl.
Well,
in there.
that's
And
where I have to agree with you on that part. But, however, I feel that's part of the writing.
Yeah. Well, the other scene that I liked about it, and they I think they wrote it well, is when he had to use the restroom, and they didn't overly make it comical or silly. They kind of made it kind of normal, with her comment like, "Wow, peeing standing up is pretty good."
Yeah.
You know, like they didn't overdo it. They didn't make some gross joke out of it or anything. Except for the slap thing.
The slap thing had me laughing. I thought that was funny.
It's like an anteater. But they didn't overly do it. Like, it was
Right.
said, done, moved on,
Right.
And I'm like, wow. Because, and I made the comment, well, if someone switches with a girl, what do you think is the first thing they're going to do is? And then she mentioned something, and then, of course, they kill her, supposedly, ooh. And then that's it. But then they moved on. And they didn't overly get into it, thank God. She wanted to kill the mother or wanted to kill the sister or whatever. It's like, yeah. So I thought that was, to me, I think they handled that whole body swap pretty well.
To really embody the personality of Millie and him doing that, a good scene was with him being with the mom in the dressing room.
Yeah.
I was going to say, that kind of got me a little bit.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they threw
As
this
silly of a
dramatic...
movie, I'm like, this is sweet.
And
It's
then
like-
let's go back to the killing.
Back to the action. Let's,
So, yeah, I know we spent a lot of time talking about this, but Dave brought up a great point. He brought up a great point of those stereotypes that they apply to women, and a lot of people act upon them. So, it's good that you guys touched on that. However, it was a funny movie, and I really enjoyed the killing in that.
especially the
That
plot
was
hole at the end that they closed off. It's like, well, he's been shot, so obviously he's going to come back, and they're going to make a sequel. Oh, never mind.
Yeah.
She literally took him out. I'm like, he's not going to come back. Not unless there's something with a dagger and they find some whole loophole in that.
But they always, once you bring in a supernatural dagger, it's...
Yeah.
Well, I thought
There's never going to be an ending to that.
I thought that was cool and cute. Oh, it was so funny, though. At the beginning of the movie, I was telling Jeff, though, that's a great concept. However, they could have gone darker with it. And if they went darker with it, I would have really enjoyed that as well. I would have loved them going really dark by doing that switch with a woman who's a single mom, who's had herself set up, taking care of her kids, going through these adversities, and then she switches with that serial killer. And that would add some really heavy drama, tragedy, and you can
Who knows?
A nice bitter person from the
Yes.
get-go and then switch.
Yeah.
Well, you know what they're gonna make Freaky 2, and it's gonna be more of like the Nightmare thing, where he's more of a spiritual killer, and he's just jumping to people and killing them that way or something. And now they got to figure out how.
Kind of like
I
Fallen.
can see that. Yeah, or he
I'm
goes
just happy that I fought the urge to say Electric Boogaloo.
Freaky 2, Electric Boogaloo.
Actually, you were saying right before we started recording, like, yeah, this is going to be the trend. So you got the slasher Groundhog Day, the slasher Freaky Friday, and then now we're gonna the next the next werewolf movie?
No, it's gonna be the Shaggy Dog slasher film, where they're just gonna call it Shaggy, and it's basically a dude gets turned into a werewolf and has to deal with that. So no.
Shaggy Dog meets American Werewolf in London.
It's something like that, but better.
That would be cool.
Just Shaggy, and it's still the comedy thing. Maybe a teenager. It's like I was a teenage werewolf type thing, but Shaggy Dog.
Yeah, it'll have to be done by Blumhouse again, because Blumhouse
they
is
seem
knocking that genre out of the park.
Yeah,
and in
they
case
did
it's
twice.
not actually in the works, then copyright Kryptic Soulz 2021.
Exactly, I'm already writing the scripts. Nice try, Blumhouse. You have to pay me.
Jason, call me.
I'll work for free. I'll take royalties.
Exactly.
I just want to see a decent werewolf movie. I've not seen one in for a while, actually.
Yeah.
I actually picked up. I think I had the first two. Ginger Snaps. Have you seen those?
I'm sorry.
What?
Yeah, I'm sorry.
No, I still haven't watched them yet, but I heard they were, as far as more recent werewolf movies, I heard they were actually really good.
I heard. I just like when I read the description about two sisters. I'm like, I'm done.
Oh yeah, definitely on paper, I'm like, let's see. But the more I hear people talk about it, it does sound like that's one of the.
Yeah. But then again, I was the same way with Freaky. I'm like, I don't know. Like, Freaky Friday with cereal? Like, okay. So maybe I might give it a chance. But, you have them. You watch them
I was going to say,
first.
if you want me to play guinea pig, I'll at least check out the first one. And
Your turn.
I actually want to watch. I have it on one of my watch lists.
Yeah.
And for some reason, again, shiny objects get in the way, and then I go into
There you
something
go.
else.
Exactly.
I mean, I really enjoyed Cursed that Wes Craven did, but there was things about it I didn't like. And I thought he had a really good concept, and I liked the idea of, there's a werewolf in the middle of the city, and it's like, cool. And then it just like, what? No, come back. Get back on track. Where are you going? What the hell? I mean, there's so many rewrites on that movie. It's just like, I couldn't follow.
I'm looking up Ginger Snaps right now, and I actually am interested in seeing that.
No.
I
Well,
like a good werewolf movie, and I do like a good vampire movie.
And we'll have to watch it before, the term ginger is outlawed.
Exactly. That too. All the cancel culture going on.
yeah, let's not talk about that.
Well, actually, yeah, let's, because you know what? In Freaky, there was a lot of things they got away with that you can't get away with nowadays.
I think because they were mocking those things.
Yeah.
Or mocking that those are a thing. I think that was probably the loophole that
They
got through with that.
used, but yeah, they still did.
I'm just hoping they come out with slasher movies that doesn't have comedy, like it's just a straight up slasher movie. I mean, Halloween, kind of started that teen slasher, and now the new Halloween kind of reinvigorated it a little bit by hopefully restarting it to a point where it can continue, because now they have Halloween Kills coming out.
Yeah.
So I'm hoping to see how this happens. And ironically, I think it's by Blumhouse. So
Yeah, I think they have this whole trilogy.
yeah, I think that's what is like. Blumhouse seems to be doing it right, whereas what was that, Silver Pictures or whatever, the ones that did the first Halloween remake with the zombie. I can't remember. Platinum Pictures. That's what it was.
Platinum Bean?
Yeah, them. Yeah,
Michael Bay company?
Yeah, the Michael Bays. They should just stick to Transformers. I mean, like, they brought that out, and it's like, ugh. And then they made a green light for the sequel. I'm like, why? Does his wife need work that bad? But anyways, so hopefully the new Halloween Kills will keep hopefully it's not over the top with the comedy, because because the first one was actually really good. You know, it's a good continuation of the first Halloween. They kind of got rid of the idea that, you know, they're related in any way, and it's just a straight person. We have no idea why they're doing it.
Yeah, they just slapped you in the face with that retcon.
Exactly.
Just like, oh yeah, that was just something a bunch of people made up about the sister thing.
Yeah, you know, I love that, and I thought that was good because once they made it into something, it just seemed like great. Now they can't go anywhere else with it. Like, they can't change characters for him to go after for no reason whatsoever. Mm-hmm. It's like you're limiting the killer, and it's annoying when they do that.
Yeah, it was at least good enough. I'm curious to see, where they go with it with kills.
Hopefully they don't go the supernatural route anytime soon. Hopefully they keep that kind of out of there because, you know, once Michael Myers started doing supernatural-esque type stuff, it just became ridiculous.
And cults. They got to leave cults out of it.
Yeah, when they brought in like 6, it's like, wait, what? Huh? I'm like, what?
The Thorn trilogy.
You know, Paul Rudd's first movie. I'm like, really?
The other night I was showing Charlie the original Halloween, and he seemed to get a kick out of it and all. And then, well, he's been huge in all the MCU stuff. So anytime I could find any kind of connection, I'll slip it in there. And I told him, I said, hey, if you want to continue these, I said, way down the road when they get really bad, I said, actually, Ant-Man's first movies. And he's like, really? And I showed him a clip of it, and he's like, wow. He's like, that's not a joke. That guy never does age, does he?
No, he doesn't. It's kind of weird. I'm like, wonder what his secret is.
He slightly he's drinking whatever blood Tom Cruise is.
Oh, God. All right. Whatever young kids they're picking up from Hillary Clinton, right? Not that we endorse that kind of thing. We're just making light of it. Please don't kill us. Anyway. It's so bad. All right, well, it's been almost an hour now, so I think it's time we kind of wrap this thing up here. We talked a lot about the slashers, and we got more coming. So, over to you, Dave.
Well, yes, I would definitely say we put a small dent in, a little background on the slashers and, some of our general thoughts and ideas and stuff. But yeah, so that's episode 2 in the books. For episode 3, we're always up for ideas. Off the top of our heads, we're kind of toying with Universal monster movies, also horror comedies. Two things that are so close and similar, like Sophie's Choice over here. But so if anybody has any thoughts or ideas of what they'd like to hear about between the two of those, or if you have something altogether different you'd like to hear about, we may be looking into someday start doing some watch parties on our Facebook page, which, if you haven't heard about it yet, it's Kryptic Soulz Horror Podcast. That's Cryptic with a K, Souls with a Z. And we're still in the process of getting our website together. We're also working on getting a YouTube channel started. So just going to be plenty of stuff to check us out on. So anybody else have any thoughts, comments?
Not really. I'm looking forward to the horror comedies because there's a couple of good ones in there that I can't wait to talk about. But yeah, the Universal Monsters sounds really cool too. But
I love the Universal Monsters, but the horror comedies, I'm all for laughing. Yeah. I need a good laugh.
Yeah. And if anybody out there has any great ideas, just throw them our way. We're always happy.
Yeah.
Just put it on our Facebook if you can find us.
This is about the people, man. So whatever you want us to do, we'll do.
What? We're not in it for the money? Oh man. No, I'm just kidding.
In due time.
There's no money because we don't ask for donations. We would never ask for donations. But anyways.
But you can always like and subscribe.
Yeah, hit the like button. Like us on once we get the YouTube up. Yeah.
And maybe YouTube will throw us some money. Yeah, that would be awesome.
Exactly. Let YouTube do all the work. Give us all the monies.
Cool.
So, yes, that will be it for episode 2. Once again, I'm Dave.
I'm Meg.
And I'm Jeff.
And have yourselves a wonderful evening.
If you can sleep.